Okay, we are live.
People, people.
Let's get it.
Let me go ahead and forward and tag and share.
Yeah, let's get it.
Forward and tag and share. Tag and share.
Let's get everybody in.
Get this in, y'all. Y'all want to share this with your uncles and your aunties, y'all. Go ahead and post and share. Forward, post, and share. Good afternoon to all the reverends and the mothers in the house. Keep us lifted in prayer as we continue today.
Down is trying.
Hey, good afternoon, and listen, it is definitely a hot Wednesday on the Greg James Community Show. Listen, we have an amazing show. I'm excited about today. Joining us on the phone line is Attorney Mataki Akbar. But in the studio, listen, this is how things work. This is how things work. Today was supposed to be an exclusive with none other than Miss Talithia Evans. I mean exclusive because I want to talk about, your journey, where you come from, what does action look like in the community with candidates and with citizens. But because of so many voices that understand how important it is to join voices together when we all feel the pain of an issue, I've got Attorney Mataki Akbar, who left court a little early to join us. I got Christy Henry, the contest chick, decided to put a few closings on hold because everybody says we've got to talk. We got to get Auntie. Who all we got to get together?
Reverend,
Uncle Joe,
First Lady,
the mother. Akbar, you got anybody we got to get together?
Motherboard, Usher Board.
Akbar said we got to get everybody together. Trustee, we got to get the boys on the corner. We got to get the girls to put the dress down. We got to bring the family reunion together. Hey, well, listen, I'm excited today. And listen, for those of you, go ahead on and tag, share, get your friends on because this is a show that really, it's got to wake up our conscience to what we're seeing and what we're hearing. And Attorney Akbar is joining us. First of all, let me say this. Let's give a big shout out to Talithia Edwards for big graduation.
Big graduation.
Big graduation.
Well, all great things come in threes. So we got the big graduation, we got the big local magazine cover, we got the big child graduation from high school. So all good things coming in threes.
Right. I mean, and I think one of the things that I want to say that I was going to say which is exclusive is that I think you set a model of what can be done and with no matter what challenges you face, if with the right mindset in place, you can make it happen. You're a mother, community activist, student. And then taking on a lot of roles. So we want to say congratulations.
Thank you so much. It's not easy, Pastor Greg. And y'all know me. Y'all are navigating these same waters with me. And so, every round goes higher. Daryl Jones says it all the time. We stand on the shoulders of giants. And I think we all feel that same burden, that same pull to continue to go to the next level. Whatever God says is that next level. And so when you in that, it might be hard, but you just keep on going.
Listen, because it is indeed hard. And what makes it hard? Let's talk about what makes it hard, right? There's factors that make it unnecessarily difficult in addition to the stuff that just is difficult, right? So let's talk about both of those. The inertia that happens with kind of the stuff that doesn't matter that makes it hard, and the stuff that does matter that makes it hard. Can you talk to that a little bit?
Yeah, well, what's making it hard currently? Life is life and always life, right? But I love this city, but political season in Tallahassee makes life hard. It gets a little. I almost don't like living in Tallahassee during this season. Honestly, I know we're gonna talk a little bit about that, but that's making it hard when we are distorting the issues. We're not really focusing on what action really looks like or what progress looks like or how we do that together. It makes it harder for us to do the work and to have the impact and the sustainability and the outcomes that we're looking for.
Wow. Well, you know what? Let me, because he has a limited amount of time, and Attorney Akbar, I think Christique asked a major question, and I think one of the things that we want to not highlight, but I think one of the things that we need to look at, as she said, what makes it hard. And Talithia said, I can just take the political season off, just pack up and leave, come back when it's over.
Go vacation.
Your thoughts?
Several years ago, she was talking to me for there's progressive stuff, stuff, political stuff, and we need to figure out what we need to do as a community, specifically because as long as we're allowed together, what I can do to have passionate about issues that don't matter to us is we're going to be stagnant. And one thing that I realized this week, read the hymn and go to talk about is that it's more important now than ever been. Because we're now coming out to each other. It shows so being but they put the line about that one issue that was talked about at 2055. So we need to like Tom Lord about and get the work. You get the work on, what we're looking to say, like our agenda, where we're going to matter in the family, this is what we're done, and what is very focused on.
I like to add to that because I think all of us voice the same sentiment. When we take a look at what is happening in our community, when we take a look at trying to be informative and trying to inspire and just trying to give an insight, I know that as Black individuals, our way of participating may be different from others.
It is.
It's truly different. And I think sometimes we're passionate about who it is we support, what it is we say. But to have a headline that depicts us like that when there was and we're talking hats off to you today, with thousands of people listening, serving as a moderator, I think you operated in a very fair space. Yeah. I think none of whatever your thoughts may have been, did not interfere with how you moderated the forum. Would you agree?
Yeah, he did a great job moderating. I really enjoyed how he moderated and how he was keeping track of who went, how the responses got done, and the timekeeping was able to move it along. So I was proud to see that.
But to read a headline that captures,
Well, okay. So let's just put this in context.
Do we have to now?
Well, I mean, let's put it
gonna be in context.
No, I ain't saying be,
okay.
unauthentic. I'm saying let's just put it in context.
Okay.
You got a byline by someone who may not have ever been to a deacon board or trustee meeting at a church, right? If you've ever been to a deacon board and trustee meeting at a church, you would understand the tenor of any meetings that happens in the community political. You'll understand that. So I think that Mutaki's point earlier about capturing 3 minutes as opposed to covering the hour in 45, I think is the critical thing that you got to hone in on. From what I understand about the meeting, there were issues discussed, pertinent issues, things that came up that address the issues of our community, things that we see that continuously come up: housing affordability, economic opportunity, gun violence and safety, educational attainment and ecosystem capability. You know, there's stuff we got to talk about, right? Why isn't that included in the byline? Why is it about the forum and not about the issues?
Because that's what people are looking forward to. They're looking forward to who's gonna throw what darts at each other, right? And that's the part. That's what we've been leading up to, right? So they prime the pump, get us all emotional. You saw seasoned leaders who were in some spaces unable to hold composure because we are emotional people. You said it, Pastor Greg, right? We do business and we're passionate in a different way. Passion and injury looks different. And what you saw was injury, right? And that injury showed up. And when we operate out of injury, we lose focus and we are unable to do the things we're set out to do. And guess what? That's what's been happening. The pump has been priming. You all are emotional. This is what you want. Look what they're doing to y'all. Look what y'all don't have, right? And so we then respond. And after a while, they say, oh, look how they act. This is what they do, right? And we can say, well, we're passionate. Yeah. But are we passionate and effective, right? Or are we yelling out of our injuries? And I saw a lot of that. And that was truly disheartening in that fact. And it totally clouded as you see the media decided to write about something and good things were talked about.
Wow.
Totally changed the view.
And I think, Mutaki, I'll throw this at you because I think that the issues and the leading of discussion were issues that are very vital in the Black community. And as commissioners, we needed to hear from the candidates as well as those who are serving.
And I think funding that you all can agree with that we have very specific issues that change the license. And I was thinking, so for that, but still to consider back feelings, but it's difficult to hold them things can challenge one of the given seats, but we have very specific conversation with our students. And that's what this about the effort as a try to do. Really cool. Then again, yes, but we did accomplish that. We were able to talk about the issue, get people still talk on the issue. So when they come back to it, we get more people down. And not only people into what they get into the, but that was the study thing was also interview happen. Or why so it was awesome.
Well, do you think, Mutaki, and I'll just speak off of what you just said, do you think the issue is the cultural politics in our community in the sense of we curate and we cultivate conversations, we air out concerns and issues, and then we put it in the lap of the folk who we elect instead of constructing an agenda that we are going step by step to activate and to execute as a community in partnership with our local government. Talk to me about the political construct and how we curate impact within our communities. Are we leaning too heavy on the political system? And what's the way forward?
Great question. As far as we have to the inability to have and I think there is a segment of the strategy the government too much. what you're saying. I think there are things of us who understand the role of the government and also understand the role of the community and the public well to be able to support. I think it's difficult for us to challenge the government if we're not. So it's difficult, even for me, it's difficult for me to like challenge. If I'm not feeling something,
Wow.
it's or anything like that. We're ourselves. Who are there to be actually? We're what's going on and these 30 years and we said the policy that turned into worse, that turned into wrong for the food, that turned into the next class. It's rather than the government say, we have to be right here, we need these.
Absolutely.
Exactly right.
I think it's easy to find you just see them, their data, they're supposed to store their cycle.
Right, right. And yeah, Tag, I really don't. I want to tag along on what you said because we did have a conversation this morning, but the conversation that we really had, I think you and I had it 5 years ago when we walked from Popeyes all the way to Starbucks, looking at properties that were sale. And I don't want to talk about what we did and what you did, but we realized it was for sale, and we wanted to know what would it cost if we bought this property. But we also talked about what it would look like if we was able to bring 25 people to the table to say, hey, this property is for sale in our community. Let's put forth the effort to secure it.
Exactly.
But we're not able to do that because we're so busy feeling like, oh my God, if we do that, then Mataki is going to become more financially stable. And this is going to help increase his bottom line rather than unifying. And until we're able to accept responsibility,
right,
we don't need to challenge nobody but our neighbors.
Exactly right. Like the conversation that came up, and it frustrates me when we were talking about the liquor store that's going on on South Monroe and Paul Russell, and I get that people are upset. We lost the CVS how many years ago? About 5 years ago. They did the Southside Action Plan.
And what happened?
Is it in there? Did we pool our money? Y'all, we have the greatest human capital ever, right? So if we resource and pull together exactly what you're saying, we can decide what we want. We are reactionary, right, to things that are happening instead of being proactive. Okay, you saw that the CVS closed. We do that. Access and to healthcare and affordable drug coverage and all of that was issues. What do we want? What do we want to see? And those are the conversations we decide not to engage in. We all get criticized because we are part of the establishment or we show up, right? But if you ain't showing up, how can you have a conversation? Christine know all the statistics. I can't tell you all the statistics. She be knowing all the thousands of statistics that help make it make sense to the people who make those kind of decisions, right? But showing up and not just blaming the folks who do show up when it's few of us who are actually showing up to actually talk about what's needed. But we react to everything. I can't believe why would they give us a liquor store? Let's go look at what sells over there, right? Let's go. If you think about all of these things, and so it's community benefit agreements. It's all of these different tools that can be utilized so that we do get what we want. But we have to show up. And I was so shocked, and I love everybody who was running for office. But I was so shocked that the Southside Action Plan did not come up in that discussion. It went on, am I lying, for the whole pandemic? It was a virtual thing. And when I was community stuff, they did drive-bys, they did all of this stuff. So you mean to tell me, in all of those years, We had no conversation of specifically what we wanted to see them, and now we reacting.
Now everybody-
Well, I think it's really important to understand that we can view Southside and areas like Southside, Frenchtown, Griffin Heights. The way we view them are from a neighborhood level. The way that other people view them is from a geographic level. So I think we need to understand that. I think also we need to understand that there is data that is wrong. There is data put out there to the market to help organizations make decisions for investment. And some of that information is wrong. They don't have the correct, and this is the census, the US census. Sorry, if y'all listening, don't raid my house. The stuff is wrong. The stuff is incorrect. If you go and do a survey of the neighborhood and you juxtapose it against the data that actually exists for that community, you will see that the incomes are skewed anywhere from 25 to 35,000 more. You should have that much more over there because you have a heavy median income demographic of retired professional people who live there, and the income is skewed because of one reason. They take, instead of the median income, they use the mode.
Wow.
And so you got to understand the data. You can't show up for the conversation unless you understand how the data is being interpreted.
Right.
You can't show up for affordable housing unless you know what the ham sandwich affordable housing is, what makes housing affordable, attainable, accessible. If you don't understand that, be quiet. Ask somebody. Don't put yourself out there as an advocate and you don't know the rhetoric or the understand. And I'm not saying that as a nerd because we all community nerds, right? But I think when you get to the point of forum, you have an expectation of knowledge there. And I think what we're dealing with is that deficit, not necessarily of intellect.
Oh, of course.
It's knowledge. It's not. I want to make sure we differentiate, right? Because we think our politicians, because of the way we use our politicians, are supposed to know what? Everything.
That's right.
They're supposed to know everything. Guess what?
They
They don't. They're informed by who? Their constituency. All right. And when we don't have the correct information and data to communicate to them, then
Oh, and we saying don't ask staff. Wait, so it's 5 of them. And I don't know how many staff people, but they say, oh, you gotta ask staff. Of course, because I'm not an expert. I'm politically a legislative body elected by the people to represent the will of the people.
Right.
So I didn't have to be educated in order to make informed decisions based on what the people are saying and based on the information I get from the professionals. And I see a lot of that skewed here in Tallahassee because we're thinking Diane, Curtis, Matlow, Jack, and John supposed to know all, and we can go on the county side too, but supposed to know all of these things when they are not skilled in all of those things. They can understand it because they're smart.
right.
And that's where we get wrong. And I'm also being aggravated. Where are the policies, right? Like, when Mutaki said, I came to him about agenda. I do believe we need an agenda. I'm going to stand on that we need an agenda that we can agree on. Everybody ain't got to agree on. You ain't got to like it. Does it work for the people, for the greater good? Right?
Yeah.
Can we agree on that? If we do, let's move with it. But what are the policies that we need to challenge that are holding us out of spaces? What are the policies that don't allow them to move to make things? They started talking about investment. When I started understanding about development and different, that's where that tax part coming from. We keep putting out the CRA for all our projects. It's coming out of that development. But you can be on the front line of the type of development you want to see in your community that feeds the tax roll and benefit the things you want to see. But those are the conversations that we're not wanting to have. We're just saying, you're giving money to developers.
Yep.
If you got $200 million for a project, why would I not give you $12 million to help go with your project? Those are the numbers we aren't seeing.
So I can have a voice.
So I can have a voice in your project. We aren't understanding those particular dynamics.
And I know Taki had to leave because he has a 2:30, but I want to thank him for joining us. But I think you're saying something. Okay, you still there? Okay, what Taki, I mean, chime into what you just heard, because I think that's key when it comes to us being able to really bring something to the table that's going to give us the kind of balance we need as we move forward.
So it is actually there's a forum And he also that about that give this. And community that everybody to talk about all the conditions in a way that makes sense. And I think like people also have the span he had when it comes down to the was in everything. But we also have a thing that everybody doesn't have some things that they find. And when we have the here, there, you know, and that you could read it in, you know, way that is effective for us. Hold it for you know, you can be because otherwise there is the that it is not needed all that you know here's the people was interest to anybody here. And now that it's extremely diluted, I think we need to bring it back in a way that's effective and that we're saying the kitchen in a way that's effective for our community. We got our form coming up and look out for those not media appreciation received and
I mean, certainly we want to thank you. I think once again, I think all of us who were there were a little disturbed about one, the article that has hit thousands of homes. So that's why we are feeling and knowing that we've got to be able to support a local Black newspaper, the Capital Outlook. We got to be able to tell our own narrative. And then we got to be able to give correction to narratives that diminish what we're doing in our communities. So Attorney Mataki Akbar being one of our lead voices, I mean, being on the front line in so many facets, to be able to stand there and, kind of, continue maintaining the issues at the forefront. Once again, man, we want to commend you for that. And we want to say that if this article that has hit the headlines of the Democrat is the article that is the wake up for all of us to come together for the family reunion, then we applaud the Tallahassee Democrat for bringing us together. Okay? It's sometimes what it takes. Because we know that what happened in 2 minutes was not the essence of what happened in an hour and 45 minutes.
And they use voice to escalate it. Look, I went and I wrote in my notebook some of the language that they use, right? Because they use that tone to escalate what I was there. I saw what happened, right? But when you add the tone to those words to what happened and the way you said if you wasn't there, you like, whoa, well, what were they doing? Did any business get? Lots of business happened, right? And you took what happened was actually the form was it was public questions, right? Mm-hmm. They had handled the business, they had asked all the formal questions. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't, you had to have been close enough to see what was happening to know what was happening, right? Mm-hmm. And so that when I read that article, I was like, oh my God, this is propaganda, right? Mm-hmm. But imagine how many people didn't come who don't even really care about our issues, because I met several women in the audience who said, I can't vote in your elections, but in your city elections, but I'm here because I want to see what's happening. Mm. Wow. And that we have to be mindful of.
And then I think another thing, and I'm gonna let you say this, I think another thing that really disturbed me with the article is the fact that it stated that there's a public disturber who shows up at every public event. Yeah. And his job, I would first say, is to be an agitator, Stanley Sims. That's his job in my eyesight. And so we pray for him, but and for them to take and tie me into a yelling and a back and forth, it really kind of ham sandwiched me off. Yeah. Because that takes away from the essence. I mean, there were several pastors that were there. It was their first time being there, and they wanted to be in the Black community. They wanted to see and hear the forum. And we gotta, I think we have to be able to create, Talithia, the kind of cohesiveness that says we're going to sit, we're going to let. And they ain't doing that at WFSU, I'm sure.
No, they had their conversation. I'm not saying it was 100%, good behavior, but I think that people understand decent and in order. And I think that when you talk about the rules of decency and rules of order, I think that's the reason why we put forums in churches, right?
Absolutely.
And so there's an inherent mindset that you're gonna be in order here. If you ain't in order at the park, you're gonna be in order here. And so I think it's important also as we look at and when we come to forums, right? Do people know anything? What do they know? What do they know except for what they're being told? Do they have an opportunity to see where something started this way and improved to this way? Did they have an opportunity to engage with some type of preemptive conversation? No, because as you said, there's not an agenda established. There's not a tracking of that. There's not a saying, oh, we were able to advocate and accomplish this. And so when you get there, you're going to have regressive because people are starting at a deficit of knowledge.
But you would think that you have two incumbents. That was the part that was hard for me because you have two incumbents who are there. They set the foundation for what has happened and what is happening, and everybody else, their opponents, then should be attacking from that, right?
Mm-hmm.
From what has happened.
From what has happened, right? Or what hasn't happened. Mm-hmm. But that isn't the way they're taking it. And Mutaki's questions try to continue to take everybody back to what has happened, what is happening, right? And even the question on gun violence. Nobody have a real answer. We've been talking about this for a long time. It is a comprehensive, very large issue. The United States government have not tackled it, right? It's a moving part. But we should have been able to champion $5 million investment over the next couple of years for gun violence. We should be able to champion Pastor Greg having to watch. Like, we didn't talk about any of these amazing things because the government itself cannot do these things alone. It happens with the work of the people who are outside doing it.
Yeah.
The pancake, all of the different things that come together to make the whole. And I was waiting for, to hear of the things that are happening, even if it was inside or outside of government, even the things they've sponsored. That's a part of the work. And that's where you get derailed in the emotion because we're attacking the personality,
right?
And not the work, not the policy.
And that's the sad part. And here it is. We're 2 years later, and we still talking about the $27 million that went to Florida State, which in turn, I know that if 27 million went to Florida State, I know Florida State had to make an investment back into. And I know the city and the county has been benefited. But we're still talking about this.
Let's put that issue in context. Talk about public referendum and the stuff, right? They invested $10 million plus however it was to fund the bond into FAMU.
Okay.
FAMU made $12 billion in economic impact just from hosting the Florida High School Athletic Association football weekend.
Okay, let's stop there. So if the investment would not have been made, would have been able to host?
Not at all, because it would have met the criteria for the FHSAA to bring their audience to the stadium, per my understanding. Now, somebody please debate me because I don't know everything.
And we wouldn't have been able to play a championship game that either. We wouldn't have been able to hold it. So we don't understand.
But I'm just saying one weekend. I didn't talk about the other games. I talked about one weekend. I didn't talk about homecoming. I didn't talk about the stat. What is the stat? Whatever
it was.
Lord have mercy. Y'all better get me. Y'all forgive me.
Whatever it was.
Yeah. So listen, I want but I'm just saying, people they punchline all this stuff, and then to close it out, it's about the CRA. Okay, people talk so much about College Town and inequity. If it wasn't for College Town, you wouldn't have the money generated to reinvest into the neighborhood first plans for Griffin Heights, for Frenchtown, for Bond, for now South City, for Providence, for that sector going down Lake Bradford. You have to create tax generating districts to create revenue to go into the blighted neighborhoods that you want to invest through citizen engagement in. But like Ms. Edwards said earlier, and she and I, we've been in these streets a real long time. Be a little bit longer, but I still look good.
Yes,
The issue here is that there is an incoherence of connective responsibility and agenda sharing. We would rather bite at each other to try to be the right Negro in the room than celebrate when things are going well.
Yeah.
We should be 100% behind Brenda Williams and what she's doing with the Tallahassee Housing Authority.
That's right.
And I'm not just saying this because I'm a commissioner on her board right now. I'm saying that because we have a housing deficit of 3,000 people that need housing affordability and accessibility. She just opened up 301 vouchers to get people into housing. That's a tenth of what is needed.
Yes.
So if we know that that's only going to serve a tenth of what is needed,
What's
where's the brains that are coming together to figure out how we facilitate the needs of the remaining 2,700 neighbors, cousins, uncles, aunties that need housing? It's that simple, but we would rather debate stuff that don't touch us, that don't matter, and information that ain't accurate, right? To address the situation and need that we have right present.
And listen, stress lowers our creativity, right? We talk about not being innovative in our political system. We don't see our politicians thinking outside the box. When your cortisol levels are high, you cannot be creative. You cannot. Absolute fact, right? So I can't think of solutions. I cannot be creative. We can't even be civil enough, right? I'm stressed going into a meeting every other week, however often I'm going into a meeting, and I can't do that. And I'm continually having to defend my person, and not even get the work done. And I wish that we'll get to that point. Like Christine, you made so many great points because government is a convener, right? They are an elevator of work. Yeah, they have to do the main things, right? Utilities, quality of life. They have to do that. But it is other community entities that feed all of that other things that make it happen. And when we begin to understand economic development, economic impact, I realized real quick, we thought we was happy we got $6.4 million. That when we had to put less of a mile of sidewalk, that cost $1 million.
$1 million.
You begin to learn very quickly
That wasn't nothing.
that $1 million does nothing. So when you think about even 24, 27, however many $1 million they get FSU, that FSU itself made a $240 million investment.
Themselves.
Wait.
Themselves.
You saying that? Wait.
Yeah.
So that maybe we won't hear this come up no more. You see, like of knowledge, Bible says, I'm gonna build a Bible now. Bible said people perish for a lack of knowledge. And it doesn't just have to be biblical knowledge. You said the 27 million that we gave out to FSU. They themselves invested 240 million.
243 million.
243 plus the 27. So we got a total of 250 million that has been invested into a stadium that's going to support our restaurants. When people come, they're going to find living spaces. They're going to party. They're going to do all of that. Have they generated that back?
They will. It's over $1 million, they said, I believe, a year coming back from that investment. Plus, the city gets to say, I need you to do this, right? And so leveraging that to
leveraging
that is a key. That's the biggest thing. And so,
aside from them already as an institution having $1 billion capital campaign, right? And this is not the university. This is the booster organization, okay? That's doing this investment around campus. So this ain't FSU proper. This is the Seminole boosters able to raise almost $300 million to fund long-term investment around their community. Now, let's talk about us in our neighborhood. What kind of funding of long-term investment are we doing? What kind of future 50-year siting are we doing? And that's why we mad. And guess what? The elders did it better than we did. When you look at the Baptist churches, the primitive Baptist churches, when you look at, and I'm dealing with this history now and just with my mouth wide open, how they built Miracle Hill with a vision for the future, a vision to care for the elders in the future. It's going through whatever it's going through, but it's still here. They donated the land for Griffin School. Did you know that the primitive Baptists donated the land that now holds Griffin School? They donated that land. They had a vision for their community. And that replicates Bond. Same story. They bought land. They donated it so they could build a school for their children. The vision is the problem.
But here's the thing. Let's go back to this, Talithia. This is why I need you to come listen to what you said. The vision is the problem. But back then, they had a village that understood having a vision. We don't have vision, nor do we have a village.
Right. We're struggling on that because what ends up happening, and we've had this conversation a lot of times, we're struggling with our personality issues, right? Because I don't feel I'm present enough, or the elder doesn't feel valued enough, and we don't know how to position ourselves to where you're my elder. I still need the transfer of knowledge that you have, right? I still need to understand. But I'm young enough to still run. I'm young enough to still innovate. I'm young enough to still learn that. And so part of that is a relational issue. And the other part is interdependence on government too heavily to do what we need to do for ourselves. When she said all that, what she said, the people and the institutions that belong to us did that work. We waiting around for the next $6.4 million. We waiting around for the next thing for somebody to say, we gonna let y'all do this, which is honestly why I infiltrated the planning field. I was like, I'm about to disrupt this whole field because they ain't thinking about us the way we need to be thinking about us, right? And I may be one person right now thinking in this way, but I went to planning school because when we went through the neighborhood first planning process, I realized this is inequity. I don't care how good it is. I don't care how much we pump it up. There are a lot of inequities in it. Good meaning people, good meaning system, but a lot of inequity because we do not understand how this works. We do not understand what return on investment is. We do not understand how to leverage funds. $6.4 million should have created $100 million, because we had that kind of leverage, and the issues we had leveraging it with or 6. Right, I'm going up when I said 100. We could have got very close when you think about all the pots of money that was available. But when we don't know that, and when I go back to what Christine said about where you come in, not from your intellect, but from your knowledge, when we don't know, we get what they tell us to get, and we're emotional about it, right? And we spend up all our money, and we ain't did nothing longevity. It's going to all go away, and we won't see it or remember it in 30 years.
Well, listen, and certainly we are talking with Christine Henry and Talitha Edwards. Joining us earlier was Attorney Mataki Akbar. And one of the things that we're talking about and celebrating the fact of what is being done in our community with our forums, and we're giving insight and we're giving a voice to what was the topic headline in the Tallahassee Democrat. So certainly, Bruce got a question on Facebook. So if you take a look at it, you can look at it and respond to him. But certainly, it was definitely. I don't know this young lady, Serenity Williams, but I will say to her, I don't know what church you was at when you make the statement that you was wrong as a man and as a pastor to cause all that drama in church. I really don't know where you were at the church, and because if you really knew me and if you really knew the Greg that used to be, it really would have been drama. But I was on my way out when I was addressed by a young man named Stanley Sims, which to me, he's a person that really has no sense of me even recognizing. So I don't know where you were, but Serenity, you're entitled to your opinion, and certainly we appreciate your comments. So look at what Bruce has had to
but
say.
It's our money, and listen, it is our money. It's over 307, almost $400,000 that's generated from the revenue base every year that goes into city, county, school board, and everybody else that get a piece of the pie, right? However, at the end of the day, we have to understand how economic development happens. And unfortunately and fortunately, a lot of our political construct, our political understanding plays and factors into that understanding. If my understanding as a real estate investor or a real estate person fits a certain construct, then I'm going to arrive at my investment strategy different, right? It's the same across the board. When in Rome, you in Rome. In America, okay? And so the way that we arrive at investment, government participates as a part of the CRA in investment up to 13%. If I'm not mistaken, it could go over that based on program, okay? But you have to sell that to that group as an equitable and advanceable project for the community based upon constructed plans and under the governing auspices of that community reinvestment agency or act that established that agency for that local space. It's important that we understand that, because we can't just take money and use it how we want to use it, even if we find precedent in other communities. That may work there, but it may not work here. You get what I'm saying? And we have to be okay with that. If we're willing to say to ourselves, oh, but we should be able to do whatever we want to do, and we got to wait on the government to do it. Then let me tell you something about the government timeline. The tax referendum that's in play right now went into referendum vote in 2014. Not a NAM project was fronted until when?
2020.
2020. Okay, 6 years something was done, and even then it was just what? Trying to figure out what the plan would be.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're dealing with almost a 7 to 10 year lag between bureaucratic action and actual funding and vertical construction.
A whole generation.
Other folk in the real estate market, they don't do that. You can go from leverage to vertical within a year, 2 years. That's the difference.
Mm-hmm.
So we can't be a community that's based upon governmental time frame because it's slow. It slows the community down. It slows growth down. It slows the needs of the community down because now we can't build like we need to house people. And we got 3,000 people because we got a supply-demand problem here in this city. People can't find affordable housing.
Right.
So those are the things that we have to address. And those are the things we have to understand what the limits in the role of government is in these respects. Is to support, but not to direct or to create. That's why government don't own apartment housing. That's why government don't own properties like that. They have surplus properties they give to organizations. Those organizations, nonprofits, and now private persons can build to address the issues that are priority in our community. We gotta know this stuff so that we're not at odds with each other and we can get to impact. If we don't have a same base of knowledge of understanding of how these things work, we're gonna be at each other's throat ad nauseum.
Well, I mean, I think one of the things that is so important, and I think that both of you all will agree, that if we don't own the land,
Come on
we
now.
can't dictate what goes on the land. So if Joe Blow comes in and buys all of Brevard Street that was for sale, and none of us as African Americans who can put pennies together and create dollars and make a offer to buy that land, and Joe Blow buys it and he decides he wants to build a high rise there, he gets approval for it, it meets all the speculation, we're wasting our voices because when the opportunity was present, we did absolutely nothing. Once again, we are reacting, as you would say.
Yeah, and I see other comments, and I think Chrissy would be the best fit to answer it. But I want to talk about, we're talking about a lot of structure and a lot of internal stuff that people may not even understand. Let me just talk about it from a resident perspective.
Okay.
I want to be able to walk out my door, lace up my shoes, and walk and go places. When I went to Boston, I walked from one end of the city to the other end.
Was you comfortable?
I ate. I had snacks. I met people.
Walk.
On my walk from one side to the other. I live on the south side of town, which is the central urban core of the community, right? We got Cascade Park going through there. We got St. Mark's Church, all this stuff. But typically, I go all the way to the north side of town to get a good piece of pork chop or steak if I ain't at Joe Ellis that day, to have brunch, to do. I'm just talking about residents. I ain't talking about CRA money. I ain't talking about none of that. I'm talking about enjoying where I live in a comfortable space and not having to drive. And so when we're criticizing development, we now can hang out at Early's with a whole new brand space. We can sit out in our own community, have a drink. We soon will be able to go to the Monroe or Somo Walk. I don't understand why we upset about being able to have a nice place that I could drive up the street, my makeup ain't sweat off to get there, to do something on our side of town that our children can see what luxury can look like, right? And have a good time in their own. That's aside from the money. That's important to me as a person who is choosing to live on the south side. I got many opportunities to move. I don't want to move. I want to live there, but I want everything I need on my side of town. That takes investment. Whether it's going to come from us or it's come from somebody else, right? And what we can be a part of is the conversation of what we want to see.
And I think you're so right, and I think all of us have made a decision that wherever else that we wanted to live, we could do that. I mean, I chose that after I graduated from college, I wanted to come back to my neighborhood that I had ripped apart. And the fact of the matter, they still stole my motorcycle. They didn't care.
They stole your motorcycle.
They stole it. But at the end of the day, I went back on the corner and said, if I don't get it returned, this is what's going to happen. But here's the thing about it. Now, I could have moved wherever and never went back to those pavements and streets to say, hey, we got to make our community better. We got to bring the resources there. We got to bring the restaurants. We got to be able to do that. And if whoever comes, buys up the land and put what needs to be there, it helps us in the process of seeing what we've always envisioned.
Right.
But now the real challenge for us is, let's not talk about who's doing what in our neighborhood. Let's unite and do it ourselves.
That's right.
Otherwise, we just blowing air.
I think it's important as we think about this that the Summer Walls project, since that's what I see on here, is within the Southside Frenchtown CRA district. It's not in the downtown redevelopment district.
Right.
So is Gaines Street.
Yes.
It's in the Southside Frenchtown redevelopment district. So to be in, that area has been since 2011 designated as a revenue generating district. But capital wouldn't come down South Monroe.
Sure.
Business owners couldn't get no capital from banks to develop South Monroe. So instead of me, I'm not gonna choose to be opposition of the SOMO Walls. What SOMO Walls earmarks for me is now capital being justified coming to the community. Because it takes more than public dollars to develop a doggone community. You got to have capital that marries with it. And this establishment, we should be trying to bolster its success. Everybody should be behind anything that comes into this revenue generating district, because guess what's going to happen when it generates enough revenue?
Mm-hmm.
That money's going to go back into bond. That money's going to go back into South City. That money's going to go back into Frenchtown. It's going to go back into Griffin Heights to create home ownership, to stabilize entrepreneurship, to do all of the beautification things that are critical and important to the community, because the community has put together a sector planning tool called a neighborhood first plan. We got to know how this works.
Right. And I want to, because I want to say this because I think it's important.
Say it.
People don't see also the intentionality of the SOMO Walls project. Want people to understand, first of all, Gordon only put $4 million of his own dollars out of his own pocket. He had to borrow because how the process when COVID happened. $3 million from 3 other people that don't live here, right? Believing in
the project.
Right. And every time there was a job that needed to be done, from clearing the land,
Yeah.
they had the diversity piece, but to
35%.
to putting the chairs and stuff together. Talithia, I need 15 men today that I'm paying $30 an hour to put chairs together. I need it for 5 hours. That's the kind of things people don't also see.
Yeah.
You understand? And his intentionality of the beauty he wants to have also there. People can throw up any kind of thing, Christine, am I right? But the beauty that you see in intentionality in that space, to me, I say, I appreciate to see this, that you are intentional, not just because this show space, but I want to make sure that people who follow gonna say, I can't come under this thing, right? And we have to understand how to appreciate that part. We keep getting mad by people who give $20 million getting $1 million. Why are we upset about that? You understand what I'm saying? When we understand how money make money. Because when you invest, you ain't asking nobody, you ain't got no money. Greg, you give me $1,000, I ain't got nothing. I'm gonna hope to go multiply your $1,000. No, money makes and attracts money, right? And that's how they have to work. But and I don't feel like we always have to tell all the ins and outs. But I think because I've been a part of, I've challenged Gordon when he first opened the doors.
Absolutely.
I remember when we inside that little empty room when he put them things. I was like, well, what's gonna be? Who you gonna hire? I'm challenged along the way. So to see all the process, to watch it unfold, to see from when we dug that dirt, them black men who needed a pre-loan to get the excavator to clean it.
Yeah.
You understand what I'm saying? Like,
And now they're doing well.
they're doing well because they
put
got
that
an
on the-
opportunity.
They went to
and they went
another.
to another. So I think,
And let me not negate to close this out.
wow.
Why was that intentionality there? Because he, as a developer, came to community leaders,
Yes.
and we created a community benefits plan for his development
Yeah, absolutely.
that included 35% minority inclusion that included all of these things that also went through a significant community engagement process.
Yeah.
So that's where we come together. And so I agree, I echo right now how we get to where we're trying to go is through continuing that kind of intentionality, but doing that amongst each other.
And the key to it is we're now talking about, and we're running out of time, but we're now talking about a liquor store on the South Side, where we had the opportunities to build a whole plaza. If we'd have came together, put dollars and cents together, and we'd have been able to get the same funding that was needed to make that happen.
Well, not right now.
We busted, and I'm gonna say this because it's my neighborhood. We busted about $1 million in 1,100 square feet, the dilapidated building. It's almost $1 million investment based on our nostalgia. That would not happen in another community. And I don't care how nobody feel about that. 1,100 square feet. Boats got to hold the building up. It's almost $1 million investment because of our nostalgia. But we're talking about having impact, outcomes, sustainability. That is not how we get there. And I'm going to tell you something. Some people know that, but this is a game to them.
Absolutely.
It is not serious. They don't live where we live.
Absolutely.
They don't drive on our streets. So it doesn't matter because it is a political game to them. And this is our real life. And until we wake up, we will continue to be used as puppets and pawns. We will take our emotionalism and our pseudo intellect to be used to divide our community and get us nowhere. We will be arguing about the same issue.
And we will blame someone else rather than accepting responsibility of our own shortcomings and our own wrongdoing. And we'll continue to repeat the cycle, and we'll continue to destroy those who are fighting to make a difference. And we'll continue to make big arguments about why Christique doing this and why Talithia is doing this and and yet and still we're moving the needle nowhere. And at the end of the day, we're going to be left behind.
Well, I think, Pastor, in closing,
Yes.
the needle is being moved.
In which direction?
It's being moved. Well, we have 301 units that are being
Yeah,
available.
I mean, real
to
small.
people.
I mean, absolutely.
We have, listen, we have gains, but unfortunately, we spend so far on the negative that we can't celebrate the gains. We can't sit down with one another and say how this game fits into the larger picture. And I think that is what your clarion call was earlier.
Yeah.
Was, hey, we gotta put this picture together.
But since you say, I mean, here's the thing, and I appreciate you saying that, and I know we got to go. But here's the thing. Let's take a look at what Brenda has done at the house. Just imagine if 50 churches sat down with her, and said, okay, what it's going to take?
Both-phase plan.
What it's going to take? How do we take and invest under one umbrella and get a return on our investment, but also serve a major need that's in our community, as opposed to I got $300,000 in the bank. I don't know the teller. I don't know the cashier. I don't know the branch manager. I don't even know the president. And there's no return on what's there. We got work to do. I think you said it all. What was that? How do you say it? Injury?
Yeah.
Can you do that before we get off? That's our closing.
That was good.
That we're not just acting out of passion, but it's pain from injury, right? And so we have these injuries. And so if we can heal these injuries, and those sometimes have to happen in private spaces. And we have to say how we feel. But we have injured public servants that they're bleeding on the people, right? And that only infects us, and it doesn't do good. And then we get to November, we close the ballots, and we want to act as if we're all good until 2 or 4 years later, and we're doing it all over again. And it only poisons the ground, and it contaminates the space, and we're unable. And people don't want to run because we need a democracy that people want to run.
Yeah, I mean, when I get off the air, I'm going to talk to you all about running for something. I mean, I know I don't want to run, but I'm going to talk to you all because, I mean, and I think what you said is so true, and I think that is so key. And I think that if we're just able to take a look at leaders that we do have. And let's sit down and talk about who is that. Okay,
Say,
let's talk
about
about it. Oh, Brenda, I didn't even know you were listening.
Mm.
But I mean, we have thousands and thousands of listeners, but certainly I think what you have done is great. But also I think what we need to do, and I think it's helpful, rather than being so openly to criticize. I mean, sure, you take a guy like Bernard Stevens, who's running for, what is he running for? Anyway, and then yet it's still in a debate. He openly's got to call my name that I'm the overseer of the city. And I got all of these nonprofits. Where'd that come from? And that's what qualifies.
I'm gonna say I'm gonna put my name as a write-in. I'm joking, y'all.
No, let's go.
But after that Monday, I was like, I'm gonna be a write-in candidate because we got to do better than this. No, that's a joke.
All right. Well, we'll close
I
on
have
that.
to write all in.
Stubborn. He said, "Well,
I'm
okay."
running for the city commission seat too. That's Bernard Stevens. Seat. Is he Bernard Stevens is running for city commission seat too.
City commission seat too. Okay. Oh my God. Okay. But I mean, okay. Anyway, so it's been an amazing show. It only happens right here on the Great James Community Show. We got the conscious chick, and definitely we got the tenacity of Talitha.
Remember back in the day, you said them shirts cool C. You gonna be tenacious T.
Well, it's been an amazing time, and certainly we thank God for all of you all. Hey, certainly at this time, man, final words to those who. I mean, we're gonna have to do this more because we're going into the election.
Yes.
We're gonna have to do some report cards on some elected officials and some incumbents. We're gonna have to be straight, no chaser. Have you ever had anything without a chaser?
Oh yeah.
Okay, so it's okay. Well, we're gonna have to do some report cards with no chaser.
Yeah.
It is what it is. If we grading you in this area, if your management skills are low, then they're low.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, it is what it is.
Yeah.
Because anybody pay your bills?
No,
Okay. Anybody?
baby. I pay mine and he paid the rest.
Okay, so that means we ain't got no screens attached. Nobody owns it.
That's right. We are who we are.
We are who we
Okay,
are.
thank you.
Hey, it's been an amazing show right here on the Great James Community Show. Wonderful guest, Talitha Edwards. We are excited by her, and she's going to be joining us as we begin our political. I don't want to say what we're going to call it, but we're going to call it something. And always the conscious chick. So until next week, listen, y'all have an amazing time. Listen, study and let's unite because that's where the power is. All right. Hey, listen, thank y'all so much for joining us. It's an amazing show today, very informative. We really want to thank the article that really sparked all of us to get engaged with a conversation. And this conversation was just perfect. I mean, certainly I had talked with Talitha about doing an exclusive on her about what action looks like. Look at where she started from, where she is now. But hey, when great minds make calls and say, hey, let's all talk about what we need to talk about, that's what we did today. Thank y'all for joining.
Y'all have a wonderful day.
Good night.